All right, let's get into Hunter Biden.
Of the Union. And the Mason-Dixon line, actually, Delaware is the only state the Mason-Dixon line does not bisect. And that is because it starts at our
Hold on.
Interview.
From the beginning.
You know,
And he hasn't sat down and done an interview for years, chat. Hunter Biden.
been a while. Been a long while. I had a conversation with Jamie Harrison, who's the former chair of the DNC. He's a great friend.
I'm going to go and do this with a 1.25 speed, by the way.
And I was down in South Carolina for other things and kind of like family down there. So I sat down with him and talked about some stuff, but nothing like this.
What made you feel like now's the time for an official, unedited long form?
Well, I don't know when it is the right time or not the right time. I'm an admirer of your work, and we have a mutual acquaintance. It didn't take me much to agree to be really interested. I think the work that you've done is
I've never heard of this guy before. He comes off as like a troll reporter, but he got an interview like this, so I don't know.
one of the most interesting commentary on the moment we're living in, the expanded moment that we seem to be continuing to live in of the from 2020 on.
Right.
I hadn't seen much of the earlier work that you had done, but I do know that I at least appreciate the sincerity with which you approach everything that you do.
I appreciate it. You said 2020 on. Do you feel like that's the year the world kind of went crazy?
No. I think that that's the year that we all kind of woke up to the realization that things are crazy. But no, I think that they've been going crazy for a while. And I don't know whether crazy is the right word. I think that I don't know how interested people are in my take on why I think the world is a little bit crazy right now.
Well, I think there's probably millions of people out there who just want to know how you're doing.
Personally, I'm great. I tell everybody, and Melissa gets kind of upset with me because it has been obviously a difficult time. You know, the past 5 years have not, at least from any outsider's perspective, been fun. But for me, as a person in recovery, and being able to maintain that recovery through this and stay clean and sober throughout it, the one thing I allow myself to take some pride in. And I know about my life is that I survived almost certain death. And I mean, I don't know if you read my book, but I'm pretty transparent about it. Having survived that hell kind of prepared me to be able to make it through kind of the public humiliation that I don't know any other way to put it, that I've experienced over the past close to 5 years now. And it doesn't seem to stop, but I'm more grounded in who I am and what matters to me and what I'm grateful for on a daily basis than I've ever been in my life. And physically, I'm in a hell of a lot better shape than I was since my last drink or drug 6 years ago.
So it's been 6 years.
Yeah, just over 6 years.
When you say you almost died, can you kind of give us some more context?
I was a drinker, and at the end, my addiction had progressed so much that it was potentially deadly on a daily basis. The thing that was the most...
And I'm glad in this interview that Biden, Hunter, gives a lot of attention to alcohol. Guys, alcohol is the fucking worst gateway drug there is, bro. It really is.
Concerning. And
the crazy part is that we have an entire industry around it, and it's 100% legal.
The most real about, facing death was in actuality the alcohol. Once you fall into that lifestyle, and I wouldn't call it a lifestyle because there's no life to it at all, you enter a completely different world in which you're living kind of completely outside of the bounds of any communal norms. I don't know. It's a scary place to be. And I met some of the most truly heroic, astounding, thoughtful, kind people that I've ever met in my life that are living, lives of quiet desperation, not quiet, very loud desperation, but even in that found space in their hearts for empathy and kindness. And I've met some of the most awful, predatory people that I've ever experienced in my life.
So you feel that the thralls of addiction do oftentimes swallow up very genuine, earnest people, but at the same time, that underbelly is home to a specific breed of evil as well?
One of the things that I've realized is that addiction is one of the most universal conditions. I don't know many people that have not been impacted by it in some way, whether it's addiction to drugs or addiction to behaviors. They have the same dilatory effect on not just you, but more importantly, on...
Yeah, I mean, that's true. There's people that are addicted to porn, people that are addicted to fucking, all kinds of vices and bullshit, gambling, all that stuff. If you're going to be addicted to anything, make it to work out and eat healthy.
On your immediate community, your family, and then it just spirals outward. And I don't know anybody.
Alcohol literally gives zero benefit, bro. It literally gives you zero benefit. It destroys your progress in the gym, makes you feel like shit, terrible for your health. You make a bunch of bad decisions, you do dumb shit. It's literally the worst, man. I've never been a big drinker. I pretty much quit years ago. But yeah, bro, it's literally the worst.
That hasn't been impacted by drugs and alcohol. in a really significant way, or at least a way in which it's created trauma in their own personal lives and the lives of those that they really love. And so while it's universal, it's something that we rarely talk about. And it's kind of the way in which we treat drug use, it's something that someone else is doing, and that someone else happens to be your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, yourself, your coworker. And it only becomes a problem when it becomes a problem for you.
Do you think that you would have been treated differently by the media if your addiction was to an opiate or perhaps methamphetamine as opposed to crack, which kind of has a racialized context to it?
Well,
Yeah, they cooked him on the crack, chat. I ain't gonna lie. Like they were. He was a political punching bag for years by the Republicans.
maybe, I don't know. Because it depends upon what media you're talking about. Because like, what is the media? You know, I think it was just an added bonus for them that they could say crack addict, and everybody would go, "Oh my God, he's a monster." So I think for those that wanted to use it as a bludgeon, it's easier when you slap the word crack addict onto it. It made me a lot easier target for the Don Juniors of the world, you know, the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world, just because of their inherent kind of meanness about things. But I'm not a victim here. I was a crack addict. You know, I wrote about it. I was transparent about it. I wasn't naive to the idea that somehow that would be something that anyone or everyone would be able to fully comprehend and have empathy for. We're lacking empathy across the board, not just for Hunter Biden. But I guess I was a little bit surprised.
Yeah, the problem, the reason why is because, like, and this is kind of a cold hard reality, the only people that have empathy for drug addicts are people that have experienced the negative effects, whether it's they have a close family member that was an addict or they were an addict themselves. But to be honest with y'all, bro, everybody else has very little tolerance for druggies. And that's the cold hard truth. It's very difficult to find people that are going to be empathetic to addicts, especially drug addicts, unless they've either A, directly been an addict themselves, or B, have a loved one that experienced and fought with addiction for a long time. Other than that, no one gives a fuck. And then for Hunter Biden, right, not making excuses for him, but I'm being objective here, as the son of the president that grew up in a privileged background and, you know, with wealth and everything, they cooked him even harder on being a drug addict. Like, yo, Hunter Biden was like literally the Republican Party's piñata bag for like 5 years while his dad was in office. They would cook this nigga like every day.
In terms of a lot of people in the press, whether it was in the New York Times or the New York Post, kind of dismissed addiction as somehow unique to my family, or without taking into account what they were doing to other people that were looking to get clean and sober. One of the things about getting clean and sober, at least I found, I don't know what your experience in your life with your friends or others, is one of the things that keeps us in the cycle of addiction is our guilt and our shame. Is the lies we tell ourselves and the lies that we tell the people that we care about the most. And
yeah, you know, this is the last time, I'm done, I'm never going to do it again. That is so true.
you get clean and you get sober, and what ends up...
And I know this because I've literally had informants that were drug addicts. So like I kind of dealt with drug addicts from a different perspective as a former agent, right? And dude, it is annoying having like a fucking informant that's like a drug addict. Oh God, bruh. Not good at all, man. So I've dealt with addicts from a different perspective, a unique perspective, but nonetheless dealing with the bullshit. So yes, he's 100% on the money here, where they just lie all the time to themselves and to everybody else.
What's up happening is you still hold on to these secrets. Like, I smoke crack. I was a crack smoker. They know that I did cocaine, or they know that I was drinking, but they don't know that I was also an inveterate drug user. And so you keep that secret, and that guilt kind of boils up. And the only place that you can talk about it is in rooms full of virtual strangers, which is really helpful. But it isn't it doesn't release you from that awful feeling that I'm about to be found out. And that anxiety. And so then you get triggered, and your brain tells you to do the only thing that it's learned how to do, is that you need to save yourself. And the fastest way to save yourself is a drink or a drug. So you get caught in this loop. And the favor that they did for me is I don't have any more secrets. Now, not everything that's been said about me is true, but there are the things that most people would be very embarrassed about. I've been very open about. I spent more time on my hands and knees picking through rugs, smoking anything that even remotely resembled crack cocaine. I probably smoked more Parmesan cheese than anyone, and so I don't get triggered.
Bruh, This thing. That's crazy, man. Bro said I smoke more Parmesan cheese than anybody on earth, man. Bruh. I told you guys this interview was going to be entertaining.
In the same way. But the thing that scares me is for people that
I ain't gonna lie. Bro's going to go down in the Hall of Fame for that one. Bro's going to go down in the Hall of Fame for that one, man.
look at the way that I'm treated in the media, whatever the hell the media is.
Also, guys,
and think, do I want to get honest? I mean, seems to me, if you look at that as a test case, better to keep some things unsaid. And I think that's really dangerous for people, at least in my experience with recovery.
As far as the media goes, what do you think are the 3 craziest things you've heard about yourself in the press?
Oh my God, the list is forever and forever. They got stuck on for a while, even Fox News, that I funded the Wuhan lab. I said that to someone a long time ago on camera as in response to a question like you just asked. And you got to be really careful. Somebody's going to be able to cut that and say, I did not fund the Wuhan lab.
I did.
Yeah, you did? Yeah, exactly. Me and George Soros. Supposedly me and George Soros have a lot in common. The one thing I'm positive we don't have in common is that I am very, very far from being a billionaire. But those conspiracies are kind of the craziest. You know, I just heard Jake Tapper is going on TV saying that, you know, I basically acted as the chief of staff.
I think Hunter was driving the decision making for the family in a way that people, he was almost like a chief of staff of the family.
Yeah, that's a fucking lie. Bruh, this nigga, they did lie on him a lot, guys. Bro, Hunter Biden was more concerned with smoking Parmesan cheese than being a fucking chief of staff, bro. One thing I will give Joe Biden credit for is that he definitely did distance himself from his son politically. So, yeah, bro, that's a lie. But you know how the CNN is.
Strike you as pretty bizarre.
I think I spent 12 days in the White House in the last 2 years of the administration.
Yeah, that's patently false. Look, I've been critical of Hunter Biden in the past, but for Jake Tapper to say that he was the equivalent to like a chief of staff, come on, bro. Are you serious? This nigga was too busy fucking prostitutes and doing crack. Get the fuck out of here. Come on, man.
I had a lot of other things going on. I think the one that was like you feel like you just got hit in the gut, you know, by an elephant, is when Rudy Giuliani and Bernie Kerik went to the Newcastle County.
And the thing that kind of, again, not to put him in a victim thing here, but like no one had sympathy for him because he grew up in a privileged house. I think he's a former lawyer, chat. I think let me look here. I'm almost certain Hunter Biden went to law school and everything. The guy's not a retard. Yeah, he's an attorney. Yeah. And businessman. He is the second son of former President Joe Biden, blah, 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 blah. This is weird, though. I think he married his dead brother's ex-wife, which is fucking weird. If I'm not mistaken, which is totally an L. And of course, if you were wondering, yep, she is one of them. Every single time.
Courthouse here in Delaware and talked about.
Yeah, he did marry. Okay, you guys confirmed it. Yeah, he married his dead brother's ex-wife. That's fucking weird.
About me being involved in, I think, child sex.
Bro made some of the worst decisions ever. But they did lie on him on some other shit. I can at least do that.
Crimes and stuff like that. And, I mean, literally with nothing. That one was the last and the only one that was kind of hard to wake up from. Is like, how do you ever take that out of somebody's head after they've heard it? You know, but I mean, truly, the list just goes on and on.
Did you try to like sue for defamation or damages or anything after that?
No, and I mean, I am in a defamation suit right now. I mean, one of the craziest ones is what Patrick Byrne said about me. And let me get this straight. He said that I was the key person in ensuring that the sanctioned Iranian oil money that was being held in South Korea was released at the behest of myself and somebody in Pakistan. And I took a 10% fee off the $8 billion for my family.
We have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think.
I'm just going to feed Frank real quick, guys. Give me 1 sec.
And then I had traveled to Tehran and to the Middle East in 2022 and 2023 in order to effectuate this. And then that ultimately, his followers made the direct connection that that money was used to fund Hamas for the murder of over 1,400 Jews on October 7th. That's the kind of stuff. And now I know you guys look and say like, but who believes that? You know, I don't know. The million people that read that tweet, you know. I had one guy in California who is I don't remember his name, but he's associated with SpaceX, a big investor in SpaceX, a very, very wealthy guy, claim just months ago that that I rented a house from him and that I trashed the house and I had the Secret Service stiff him on the rent and that I tried to pay him with a book of art made of my own feces.
His ex-landlord claims he stiffed him on a whopping $300,000 in rent. What happens to the back rent that Hunter Biden owes my family? Is that pardoned now?
And, you know, like, how insane is that, right? You know, but you look into the background of this person, and he's a major, major investor in SpaceX. He's probably worth a few $100 million, and he has this huge following on X. Elon Musk retweeted that, and it went, you know, and it went viral.
It's pretty messed up, man. There's also some people, though, who just think that if you leave the country, you're a spy. You know what I mean? Like, why is he going so many places?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, the really interesting thing is they created this a character that is both, in some sense, a ne'er-do-well fail son that has not ever accomplished anything, and a criminal mastermind all in one. I kind of feel like, you know, pick one. Most of my travel during that period of time when my dad was vice president, and by the way, I didn't travel anywhere when my dad was president. I don't think I left the country. But during that time, I was the chairman of the board of what's called the U.S.-UN World Food Program. And I was also chairman of the board of the Truman National Security Project, chairman of the board of the Center for National Policy. I was a professor at Georgetown University, adjunct professor for over 4 years in the master's program of the School of Foreign Service. I taught a course on advocacy, largely based upon the implementation of a thing called PEPFAR, President's Emergency Plan for Aid Relief in Africa. And as the chairman of the board of the U.S.-UN World Food Program, it's kind of like what you know of, like as a kid growing up, like UNICEF. UN has voluntary aid organizations in which each nation state that is a part of the UN voluntarily contributes to the continued operations of UNICEF, UNHCR, UNESCO. All of these organizations are all voluntary aid organizations. The UN World Food Program is the largest voluntary aid program in the United Nations, and it is the largest humanitarian organization in the world. It serves over 80 million meals on a daily basis in 72 different countries, and it is the first on the ground because it controls all the airlift and communications for all of the relief efforts globally in any natural disaster or civil war or conflict. And so the U.S. is responsible for about 65% of the budget of the World Food Program, which was my responsibility as chairman of the board. And I increased the budget of the World Food Program, which just won the Nobel Peace Prize 2 or 3 years ago, by 50% when I was chairman over my term, to like $2.4 billion. It's all gone now. Trump ended all of that. But point about traveling. So I went to the Philippines after Typhoon Haiyan. I went to Kenya to Dadaab when refugees were flowing in from across southern Africa, and Ethiopia. I've been to Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, and I've been to all over the world. 75% of my travel during that period of time was on behalf of the World Food Program and other, you know, NGOs that I work on behalf of.
So I want to back all the way up to the very, very beginning. A little short bio. We can do a long bio too. So you're born here in Delaware or born here in Pennsylvania?
In Delaware.
Okay, in Delaware.
Yeah, Wilmington.
Wilmington.
Yeah, 10 minutes from here, 15.
What are your thoughts on Wilmington, Delaware? Nice place?
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I still do love about the East Coast and Delaware and the Mid-Atlantic is the history. And so I'm a little bit of a history geek.
Yeah, because Delaware doesn't really get much representation because you got Philadelphia, powerhouse of history and culture. You got Rocky, a lot of other things going on there, too important stuff. And then
we agree on that. I'm basically living in a suburb of Philly. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say that, but you got Baltimore, The Wire.
Yeah.
You know, you got people on horses in the streets out there.
Yeah.
People on ATVs. And then Delaware's kind of sitting in between. People know that it's a corporate tax haven. People know that the Biden family's from there. What's something that people don't know about Delaware that they should?
Delaware's the first state. I don't know if they should know this, but it's the first state to ratify the Constitution. When Thomas Penn basically colonized Pennsylvania, he carved out Delaware, and we called it.
Yeah, we should be having an after hours tonight, chat.
The suburb of Philly, yeah.
Well, I don't want to say that, but you got Baltimore, The Wire.
Yeah.
You know, you got people on horses in the streets out there.
Yeah.
People on ATVs. And then Delaware's kind of sitting in between. People know that it's a corporate tax haven. People know that the Biden family's from there. What's something that people don't know about Delaware that they should?
A lot of people also incorporate their businesses out of Delaware. Has really good LLC laws.
Delaware's the first state. I don't know if they should know this.
Okay, let's go into his early life and tragedy. Skip through some of this.
I was given the gift of having known and having two mothers that I consider my mom, both of them, my birth mother and my mom now. And I feel incredibly lucky for that. Instead of thinking of it as some tragedy, I feel incredibly lucky that I had my aunts and uncles that literally moved in with us. And I got the experience of having an extended family. My uncle is my best friend in the world, outside of my dad and my brother. And that, I don't know whether we would all be as close if it weren't for that. But, you know, I mean, you come from a big Irish Catholic family. This isn't like, oh, woe is me. Yeah. You know, I mean, everybody's gone through this.
It was definitely a cultural kind of instinct to not allow ourselves to be defined by traumatic events and to take responsibility for the way that, you know, we've handled things that have happened?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, we all have to take responsibility, regardless of the reason. The consequences aren't always fair, but I think the biggest question is whether you use it as an excuse or do you use it as a catalyst to be more empathetic with other people and also yourself.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it sounds like the kind of double-edged sword you're talking about, or the flip side of the coin is that even in the wake of tragedy allowed for your extended family, like your uncles and stuff, to become closer because they recognized that you needed like an extra layer of support. And so do you feel like without that happening, there wouldn't have been as strong of a bond within the family?
I don't know. I do know this, is that my family is just incredibly close-knit, but I can't imagine that, I mean, obviously, yeah, I think your relationships are forged by the circumstances, and the more dire and consequential the circumstances, the stronger the bond. I mean, I don't know what your experience is, but I do know this, is that I feel very
All right, let's go into the crack addiction.
doing his job, and he was in private practice at this time. And so, what does Alex Thompson think my brother would owe fucking anyone to say, oh no, I'm dying, I'm not gonna run for governor? And why would he do that? Why would you give up on life? And it's almost like I somehow that this human being is not a human being. Like he has not experienced life. He has not had anyone in his life that is, and I find it really hard to believe in a day and age when I don't know anybody that hasn't had somebody in their family that has cancer. And so what do you say to them? Oh, you have cancer? Oh, so you're gonna go tell your boss that you're dying and you should quit now? No, you don't. You go do your chemo, you do your radiation, you get up in the morning and you eat better, and you go on a different diet plan, and you get experimental procedures done, and you fight and you fight and you fight. At least that's what my brother did. Anyway, my point being, it was
All right, let's get into the laptop story.
Extra level of protection. You know,
an hour. I was telling her my whole unvarnished life history and the immediate problems that I was facing, which was crack addiction. She literally said, well, that ends now. And it did. I mean, not that minute, but over the next 2 weeks. And then I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. And I said, well, why wouldn't we do it right now? And so we literally called Justice of the Peace to the house. She came and she married us. For me, it was a miracle. For Melissa, the really hard part started then, in the sense of getting clean and sober is not easy. It's even harder on the people that love you. And if they're that support system, it's a full-time job in that immediate period of time. Because, as I said to you before, the dangerous part is withdrawing from alcohol, and it can be kind of scary. And she went through all of that, and she went through the entire process with me. And she did things that I wouldn't allow anybody else to do. I saw in Melissa somebody that, without any history between us, look at me with as much love as I looked at her. And I accepted that love in that moment. And a lot of it was tough love. She took my car keys, she took my wallet, she took my clothes for a period of time, so I couldn't leave the house.
Wait, took your clothes?
No, I didn't have anything. It would have been impossible. We were living in the Hollywood Hills. There was nowhere to go. And if I could go anywhere, there's nothing to buy anything with. So
I can remember covering the 2020 election about a year later, and I think it was the first Stop the Steal rally at Reading Terminal Market in Philadelphia. And I saw what I thought was a BLM flag, Black Lives Matter, but it actually said Biden's laptop matters. And so
Ah, man. Okay, guys, smash that like button on YouTube. Let's get to 2,000 likes.
that's the guy. What the hell does that mean? And he just sort of kept yelling the slogan over and over again. Couldn't get much out of him.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, what happened with that?
Well, I don't know. You tell me. And I really mean that sincerely. You'll have a lot of people that will come up with something about the laptop. But I always say to anybody, you're steeped in and just through your work, the right-wing narrative around it. And my question to anybody that is keeping an open mind is, what is it that you think the laptop proves? Or what you call the laptop? So everybody has a laptop. So when they say Hunter Biden's laptop, what is it that they're talking about? Do you know?
Well, I know that your entire iCloud was connected to it, all of your personal text messages, private photos, all that kind of stuff.
Like everybody's laptop.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you left it with a repair shop owner who, for some reason, gave it to Rudy Giuliani. Not exactly
Yeah, that's crazy that he did that.
sure how that's legal. He distributed it to the press. Particularly, I think the New York Post was involved in the spearheading of this mass dissemination of your private materials. From what it seemed like, it was a lot of private text between you and your friends, family. Your entire sort of private life was on there.
Yeah. And again, so everybody has a laptop. Everybody has a cloud.
I'm assuming not.
No, not everybody has a laptop. Everybody has a digital life. Almost everybody has a digital life. Everybody has a digital life, pretty much. And that includes voicemails and pictures and text messages and emails and location data and, everything. Everybody, you do.
It's because he's the president's son. You know what I mean? Doing crack. That's why I was such outrage. But that's I ain't gonna lie. That is a gross invasion of privacy that this fucking guy, laptop guy, did.
Everybody that is here right now, by whatever means, they got my digital footprint going back decades, over 20 years. Again, I ask anybody, you're steeped in this, and this isn't a challenging question, but it kind of makes my point. What does my laptop prove
that you do crack and you fuck hookers.
about criminality or anything other than
Well, you're doing drugs and you're fucking hookers, which are two different crimes.
which I had already readily admitted to, completely transparent about, is my drug addiction.
Well, I'm trying to remember specifically what the most radical conspiracies that I heard. I think that a lot of people are concerned or curious about various international business dealings.
So
All right, he's going to talk about Burisma now. Let's see what he says.
I served on the board of well over a dozen different entities, way more than that, including major global organizations. I was vice chairman of the board of the National Passenger Rail Corporation, which is otherwise known as Amtrak. It's the largest passenger rail company in the world, which is more than just a rail company. It's also a real estate company. It's also a commercial real estate company. It's a residential real estate company. And it is probably the largest owners of property in urban metro centers of any organization in the country, and a huge employer and a multi-billion-dollar business. And I was the chairman of the corporate governance committee on that board and vice chairman and elected chairman and then resigned before the Obama administration took it. So I told you before, I was the chairman of the board of the UN World Food Program, responsible.
Yeah, I mean, with all this power, this is why so many people have such little empathy for him. Bro had it all and fucked it up with drugs.
For sustaining a budget above $2 billion a year for the World Food Program and the contribution the United States makes to the global relief effort as it relates to hunger. I was chairman of the board of the Center for National Policy. I was on the board of Catholic Charities. I was on the board of Jesuit Volunteer Corps Northwest. I was on the board.
Bro was on every board, man.
I keep going down the list of board memberships that I had. And a year and a half before my dad was to leave office, I was approached by a Ukrainian natural gas company through one of their board members to consider being of assistance to a company that was being threatened by the Russian aggression and the invasion of Crimea and the incursions into Donetsk and the Donbass. And I took them on as a client because I was a partner of counsel, at Boyd Schiller Flexner, which was a major national global law firm, in which I focused on corporate governance and commercial law. And I represented them for about a 3-month period of time. And through
He is a lawyer.
that representation, they asked if I would join the board, which I did. The day that I joined the board, I announced it and sent out a press release of the reasons why that I was joining the board, which came and went and did not become an issue until Rudy Giuliani, along with a guy named Andrei Derkach and a number of others that have all been convicted of treason for being Russian agents, came up with a conspiracy that Joe Biden was involved in a bribery scheme.
The FBI arrested the person who offered those allegations for falsifying his testimony to the FBI.
For over a 10-year period of time, I worked with a group of people that had a cross-border private equity firm inside of China, and I had a business that was based around advisory for multinational global funds, private equity funds, doing infrastructure work and others. And I was asked to join a fund, the startup inside of China that was had a headquarters in Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and New York. And I had a 10% equity stake in that, of which I paid, I made my equity contribution in that, just like every other member of that.
Federal officials are looking at his foreign business dealings, including his ties to a Chinese energy company.
Those are my two foreign business dealings.
Yeah, because I was kind of looking into it, and it seems like the conspiracy is that through those connections that you had to these, foreign governments, they were using you to leverage pressure onto your dad
Again,
somehow.
like what?
Well, that's the thing, is that when you're looking
I'm not putting you on the spot. And I guess my whole point is that I asked these same questions to the House Oversight Committee. I've been investigated by the House Oversight Committee, the House Ways and Means Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, the Senate Oversight Committee, and I have been investigated by Maine Justice, the U.S. Attorney in Pittsburgh, the U.S. Attorney in Philadelphia, the U.S. Attorney in District of Columbia, the U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles, the U.S. Attorney of Delaware, the Special Counsel's
God damn.
office. Not one single person has ever accused me of a crime based upon anything that was in or discovered as it relates to my laptop. Not one. Not a single thing about my laptop. So this whole idea that there was some conspiracy to cover up the laptop, they uncovered 20 years unvarnished of every single communication that I've ever had over a phone or by text or over email or computer in any digital way. There's not one communication that you can even remotely say is evidence of a crime. Not one. Not one time. Not one communication. I would challenge any.
Well, you can make the argument that you using drugs and facilitating using the drugs, you'd had to contact drug dealers to procure the drugs. You got videos of yourself banging hookers in there. That's a crime. Now, with that said, right, you can make the argument it's a victimless crime, right, and that they're not going to go ahead and waste their time and prosecute him on that. But he did definitely commit crimes.
Anybody to show one instance, other than me seeking drugs for myself, for my own personal use, okay, or women as it relates to, people that were in the drug trade that I would seek for the purchase of drugs. One single instance in which anyone has used any one of those communications as evidence of any kind of crime at all. Now, take that, okay, that's it. So you say Hunter Biden's laptop. What? By the way, I'm talking out there to people that I would assume are, or want to be on my side, or at least want to be on the side that I'm a part of. What about Hunter Biden's laptop? How about this? Well, it was a cover-up. Twitter took it down, and it was a big cover-up. And you have Matt Taibbi and all these guys that say, yeah, it was that Twitter took it down and Facebook took it down.
It seems that big tech only censors, media companies only censors stories when they're negative towards the Biden campaign.
You know why they took it down? Because what they did was they published naked photos of me and women, which is in violation of their terms, and which, by the way, is a criminal act under the new federal law that was passed by accredited to Melania Trump, with universal support in the House and the Senate. That's why they took it down. It wasn't a cover-up. And then you had 100 former national security officials come out and say, this looks like it could be a Russian op. Because it is. Because in the course of an election, what happens? You have Rudy Giuliani in conjunction with Steve Bannon.
As you guys can see, politics is a dirty game.
In conjunction with Miles Gao, who's in jail, who is, I don't know how many other counts of fraud and bribery, and is a Chinese national.
American politics, you guys can see here, is fucking ruthless. And I'll be honest with y'all, it wasn't this bad before Trump came in. Now it's like full-on lawfare and shit like this. This stuff, prior, trying to get former presidents arrested, putting out this information, it was unheard of, man. Once Trump came in, it was, we got to get this guy out of here. And then he retaliated, and it goes back and forth.
Was working directly with Steve Bannon and a number of others, including Bernie Kerik, who...
Like, if you guys look at, for example, Obama versus Mitt Romney, very respectful debate, very respectful campaign. They didn't smear each other that bad. Obviously, they smeared each other to a degree, but not like this shit, right? Trump brought in what I call the blood sports of politics.
God rest his soul, is dead. That basically came out and, said, we have Hunter Biden's laptop. And the big reveal about Hunter Biden's laptop was that I was a crack addict. But, unfortunately for them, I'd already admitted that I was a crack addict in the pages of the New Yorker. It did a, 13,000-word article with Adam Entos, in which I told everything about myself and my own struggles. And they just simply conflated the two. They said, well, Joe Biden fired the prosecutor in Ukraine to benefit his son. Completely debunked. The person that said that I took a bribe for that happens to be a guy named Shokin, who is in prison for lying to the FBI on a form FT 1023. In prison. Admitted to it. Admitted that he was enticed into making it up on behalf of the Trump team side. The only other guy that came up and said that there was illegal and wrongdoing and bribery was a guy named Gal Luft, who was later convicted in absentia, both by the EU and as a arrest warrant out for him by Interpol and the United States as an arms dealer, selling Chinese weapons to the Iranians and to the Libyans. And so, again, I ask, so Hunter Biden's laptop, so what? So what?
It sounds like it became political cannon fodder to,
All right, let's go into Israel-Palestine.
Of making people's lives better, not enriching himself, not doing it for his friends and donors, is to actually impact the lives of people in a way that, as you always talk about, the people that he grew up with, the neighborhoods where he came from. Just make it a little bit easier to make it through the day, understanding that people sit around the kitchen table, if people sit around their kitchen tables and have time to do it anymore with their formula. That's what people are fucking worried.
You know that there are some adults who identify as babies. I'm about to show you a preview of our upcoming after.
Oh, no, we can start a conspiracy.
Oh, the baby, eating the babies, for animals. Should be limited or increased.
Okay.
Fixation.
Oh my God, is she going to actually make me go through this conversation about that old type of fucking thing?
Okay. Do you see our involvement in the Middle East as something that should be limited or increased?
I definitely think it should be limited. It's really interesting is that, I am a firm believer in the right of the state of Israel to exist, but I'm also a firm believer in the right of the state of Palestine to exist. Yeah. And so I sit here and I believe in a two-state solution. And I believe that in any of these conflicts, you should have been able to find that was the only obvious and potentially realistic path forward. Because
yeah, it's the only way that you're going to have peace. If there's no two-state solution, you'll never have peace in the Middle East, bro.
On either side, you're not going to sit and allow for or condone a genocide or mass upheaval of an entire population. Somehow, the Israelis and the Palestinians have to find a way to coexist, correct? And I do know this, is that if you don't start there, then you end up where he is, the current president, which is that the Palestinian population of the West Bank and Gaza have to be completely removed from the region.
Right.
So then the idea of a mass deportation of millions of people is the most unreasonable and unrealistic, impossible thing to even conceive of. But even if you could, where? And there's not one of the regional partners could possibly handle that. Not the Egyptians.
Yeah, they talked about Libya, Egypt, Jordan potentially. They don't want that shit.
Not the Jordanians, not the Syrians, not the Lebanese, not the Saudis. There's nobody that would take that population.
Do you think that's because they're concerned with their trade relationships being threatened, or they just don't want their country to become a hotbed for Israeli bombardment?
Oh, I think that they don't want it to become a hotbed for poverty unrest. I think that they look at the lesson of Lebanon, in which the Palestinian refugees settled in Beirut, and Beirut has never been the same, and Lebanon has never been the same. It's completely collapsed. It's collapsed, by the way, because of pressure from the Israelis, because of pressure from regional partners, because of pressure from internally, because of the political pressure, because of the Shia-Sunni split. And then you have this situation in which nobody wants the Palestinians, but everybody wants to protect the Palestinians, but nobody wants to take the Palestinians.
And they don't want to move.
Well, here's the thing. Why should they, though? You know, this whole concept of, oh, no one wants to take the Palestinians in. Bro, nobody wants to take anybody in. That doesn't mean that inherently that Palestinians are bad people. Because, like, that's like the equivalent, like, let's say you got a neighbor, right? And you really like your neighbor. But your neighbor got into a fight with some robber, and the robber kicked him out. Well, you don't want your neighbor, even though you love them, to stay at your house forever. You can maybe visit, but you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that you can get that occupier out so they get back in their house. Same exact thing with the Palestinians. Because this is a very famous Zionist talking point where they say stupid shit like, oh, well, nobody wants the Palestinians. Nobody wants them. None of the Arab world wants to take them in. Nigga, nobody wants to take anybody in. That's not even a point. You could love your neighbor as much as possible, but you ain't going to want your neighbor to move in to your house. Like, what the fuck? You already got your own problems you got to deal with. You would rather help your neighbor with getting their land back or getting their house back or getting some kind of split with their house. So this whole like Zionist talking point of like no one wants to take the Palestinians in because they're problematic people, that's fucking
redacted.
Like ridiculous, man. And the fact that like these dumbass Zionists still using, I've got like all their talking points memorized now at this point. I literally have like all their talking points memorized and I can debunk all of them. That all they do is fucking lie or make disingenuous arguments. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. Nobody would want to take anybody in. Like, for example, let's say the Palestinians kicked the Israelis out. Do you think we would give them a state in America? No, we don't want them here either. Get the fuck out of here, nigga. Nobody wants to take a foreign people in. Nobody does. Holy shit, man. It's amazing to me how they still use this as a talking point as if it's like valid. It's
redacted.
It's their home. Yeah. So what do you do? And the same as this. If you're an Israeli and just a citizen, not a part of this government, not a supporter of Netanyahu, you are somebody that is sitting there and you watch what they did on October 7th and you go, how the fuck can I possibly live this way? How can anybody live this way? How can you live this way without eradicating the threat? And that's humanity. I know that there's no way about talking about this without really offending so many people.
Yeah, it's what I call a can't win topic.
There is no win in the topic other than to say this. There's only one way forward, and the only way forward is a two-state solution and a diplomatic solution.
No, translation. There's a very clear person that's in the wrong. It's just that it's not politically correct to call out these people because they run America. The rest of the world knows who the problem is. Okay? The rest of the world knows who the problem is. It's just that we're cucked in the United States.
Solution. Bombing the shit out of whatever remains of Hamas in Gaza and turning it into a golf course, like Donald Trump said, is not going to work, no matter what, unless you literally kill every single person that inhabits Gaza right now. You would have a generation upon generation that would justifiably haunt.
And here's the other thing too, right? Guys, I'll I teach you guys how to debate on this stream a little bit. There's a reason why I call them out like that, right? As you guys know, every time I make points that show ugly realities about Israeli foreign policy, one of the number one thing that Zionists come back to me and say, I'm a Hamas supporter. I'm a terrorist sympathizer. That's because whenever they say that, I already know I won because they can't refute what I said. So instead of refuting my point that I made, they'll say some dumb shit like, oh, you're a Hamas sympathizer. You're a Hamas supporter. That's how they respond to the truth. It's a classic Zionist deflection tactic when you debate them. They cannot address the fact that they've killed 60,000 people, 70% being kids and children, or kids and women, They cannot defend the fact that they've been systematically bombing a closely cluttered population of 2 million people. They cannot justify how they're literally trying to ethnically cleanse them, and the news just came out within the last 24 hours that they are going to annex Gaza. They can't defend their points. So the only thing they have left is to say, you're a Hamas supporter. That's their go-to fucking argument every time. Macron, yeah, we want to recognize a Palestinian state. Oh, you guys are supporters of terrorism. They can't handle the facts. And the facts is they are wrong. They are 1,000% wrong. What they've done in this conflict is indefensible. October 7th does not justify their asymmetric warfare that they've been conducting over the past 2 fucking years. At all. We're talking about 600 Israelis at most, that were killed by Hamas. 600. And I've talked to you guys before about how I arrived at that number. All factually based, by the way. I don't want to bore you with repeating myself. But 600. 600. At absolute worst case, 600 were killed by Hamas. So does that justify between 60 all the way up until 400,000? Different sources say somewhere between 60,000 to 400,000 have been killed in Gaza. 600 leads to 400,000 or 60,000 on the lowest end. 10x. 10x.
Israel.
And haunt the United States.
And haunt the United States and haunt any of the Western allies.
9/11 every weekend.
Yeah, and why do people can't understand that? Same goes for Iran. The Iranian people, the Persian population, that is not a part, which the vast majority, adherence to the Ayatollah or a supporter of the dictatorial government that rules Iran right now. They don't support their government. But I'll tell you what they also don't support. They don't support being bombed to the fucking Stone Ages by the United States and Israel to rid them of the leadership that they have not risen up to rid themselves of. It seems to me that's up to them. And Bibi Netanyahu has been promising us that Iran was on the verge of a nuclear weapon for, 22 years now?
Even Hunter knows this bullshit.
Other than that, I think he first wrote it in a book that they were months.
Guys, smash that like button. We're almost at 3,000 live viewers, bro. How the fuck do we only got 1,600 likes on YouTube, bro? What the fuck, man?
Away from a nuclear weapon in 1996, and then he said it again in 2000, and then he did it in 2004, and then he did it during the Iraq War, and then he did it a few months ago, and then he did it a few weeks ago, and then he dropped bombs. But he's been wrong every time. But he's the boy who cried wolf, and one day the wolf is going to, the wolf is going to be pushed. They have no other option. If they do have the fissile material to be able to create a crude weapon, which according to Secretary Moniz, former Secretary of Energy, they have enough uranium to create basically a crude nuclear bomb that can be transported by rail car or tractor trailer. Now, the ability for them to deliver that payload into Israel would be almost near impossible with the intelligence capacity and capabilities of the United States and Israel, because you would not have safe passage through Syria now without Assad. So even if they could do it, their ability to deliver it is almost zero. Does anybody think that Bibi Netanyahu is not doing this to save his own ass so that he doesn't end up in jail? Because he has a favorability rating inside of Israel of about 22%. That the Knesset is completely in disarray. Look, here's a real question I have, and it's got me in trouble, not to relate to anybody but Bibi Netanyahu. If the Mossad had the plans for the October 7th attack a year before it occurred, why were you not prepared? Why did you not have soldiers in the southern part of Israel where the attacks occurred for up to 7 to 12 hours?
Maybe the same reason they didn't capture Osama after the Kenya bombings.
Maybe, but I don't know the answer to that. But no one has been able to actually ask that question in earnest because we have still been in the fog of war, because we maintain the fog of war. I don't know if you've read Tom Friedman. I think it's probably the most prescient thing that's been written about.
All right. Cutting the YouTube stream. Fuck y'all niggas. Cutting the YouTube stream right now. We're going to go to OSS only right now. I'm cutting everything. Fuck y'all ungrateful ass niggas, bro. Cutting everything. You guys think, oh, you won't do it? Okay, watch me. Get the fuck out of here.